loves, it's Shelby. Welcome back to the series. Today we're going to be exploring why we should praise God despite our misfortunes. And today we're going to be talking about Rachel. Alright, so let's hop right into it. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining today's video. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. You know I love you. I am Shelby. I'm the blogger behind Shelby.com. I like to share Bible study tips. I like to share my things that I'm doing to stay encouraged in faith, and I also like to share Bible study lessons, and that is typically a part of my morning coffee with Shelby series. But today I am actually continuing with the Blemished but Beautiful Bible study series that I'm doing with Cassandra, and hopefully you caught her video last week where she talked about Hannah, and if you have not, please make sure you check the description box and get the link to her channel. You do not want to miss her videos. We are doing this in partnership, so every other week I post a video, and then on the weeks where I'm not posting, she is posting a video. So that way you get to take part in a weekly Bible study series, and we are just trying our best to go over as many women in the Bible as possible, which is super it's interesting, it's encouraging, and honestly it's fun. It's fun to sit down with someone else and get to not only collaborate but discuss kind of things that you took away from the Bible study lessons, and to kind of see if they have anything different that they took away. So it's been a really good experience, and I hope that you guys enjoy this series. It's a labor of love. I'm going to be talking about Rachel, and again, if you are going to watch this video, I definitely highly recommend that you go ahead and read the book of Genesis, and we're going to be talking about chapter 29 and chapter 30. For chapter 30, you only need to read verses 1 through 24 in order to really kind of take part in the series and to reference the things that I'm talking about. So I hope that you will take the time, if you have not already, to read the story. If you have not, feel free to pause and save this video to your watch later and go do your reading and come back to watch afterwards, because I definitely want to hear from you of what your thoughts were on the reading. If there was any lessons that you took personally, anything so you could apply to your life that you feel comfortable sharing in the comments, I would definitely love to hear from you. And I think everyone else who's watching the video and reads the comments would enjoy hearing from others what they've learned. I really want this to be a series where we really talk with one another and encourage one another in Christ, and so commenting is definitely, I feel like, the best way for us to do that and continue the conversation. So I'm hoping that you will do so. Alright, so now that I've rambled on about commenting, I'm going to start actually back at the beginning. As you know, Jacob, he comes into town, he finds Laban's land, and he sees the shepherds outside, and they are trying to tend to the flock, and then he asks them, basically, he's trying to figure out, where am I? Am I where I think I am? Is this my relative's home? And they're like, yes, and this is his daughter. And here comes Rachel walking up, and he is like smitten in love. He's like, oh, she's beautiful, basically. And so Rachel is a shepherdess, so she brings some of the sheep as well. They have to have all the sheep come out at once because they have a huge well with the stone on top of it, and so they only want to have to push that stone once. So I mean, not to say it mean, but I mean, Jacob's kind of showing off, so he pushes the stone back all by himself because he's trying to show, he's strong. Rachel and Jacob, they greet each other, hug each other. It says they kiss, but it's not that kind of kiss. It's more of a familial kiss. And she gets her dad, and she's, her dad is very happy and excited to see Jacob, and he hugs him and kisses him as well. And he's like, you have to stay here, and he invites Jacob to stay. And at some point during their conversation, Laban is like, how can I compensate you for your work here? And that is, and I mean, it's like literally right off the bat during the conversation, basically. he's like, you can compensate me by giving me your daughter's hand, by giving me Rachel's hand. So they make an agreement that after Jacob works 7 years, that he will get to have Rachel's hand. Now, what I was like, at first when I first read this, I was like, 7 years, that's a long time. Well, I guess considering the wages that would be earned in 7 years, that is not unheard of. And it was a common practice during that time to basically pay, obviously, that's what he's doing. He's paying for the daughter's hand in marriage. So Jacob is like, 7 years is a day for me, because he's in love. He really is. He's fallen for Rachel, although they've spent a few seconds together. Come the wedding night, Laban actually brings Leah, Rachel's sister, who's the oldest, to Jacob. Now, at first, if you just reading this and thinking about today's time, you're like, how does that happen and he not know? Well, one, Leah would have been wearing a veil because that would have been custom. Two, it was at nighttime because they've been celebrating all day, so it's not until night that they actually go in together. So it would have been pitch black. There would have been no light, so he wouldn't have had a chance to see who it was anyways. So it's not until morning that he realizes that he was giving Leah, and he's upset, which we all understand. I mean, you were deceived. But if you've read the book of Genesis, then you know that Jacob's not innocent. He deceived his father to get his brother's birthright. So the deception is kind of like, I don't want to say karma, but you reap what you sow. I mean, that's biblical. You reap what you sow. So you've deceived people, so now you've been deceived. Deal with it. So Rachel is basically getting the short end of the stick because she didn't have anything to do with what Jacob did to his brother. But nonetheless, her husband has now been given to her sister, and she has to wait another 7 years while Jacob works to earn her hand in marriage. Which he does so because he really wants to marry Rachel. And Leah, like I said in the other video, she's just stuck in the middle. But like I said in the previous video, for me, I get frustrated with Rachel because if that is your custom, that the oldest sister has to be married first, you know what your customs are. You know what your beliefs are, what the commonalities are in your culture. So why are you upset at your sister knowing that that is the culture? You knew your dad didn't have somebody lined up to marry your sister. So what did you think was going to happen? To me, that part, I wish there was more that I could, that I could explore to understand why she would be so upset with her sister if she knows that what the customs are of her culture. That to me is like, that don't really make sense. But I mean, it could just speak to the fact that Rachel is just the youngest sister and likely spoiled or selfish, and she doesn't really care what the customs is. She just wants her man to be her man. I don't know. I'm pulling a lot where there isn't any, but it's a lot of speculation. So anyway, so Rachel finally gets to marry Jacob, but her and Jacob, they have an attitude. They both are upset and frustrated, don't really want anything to do with Leah. And because they are so negative and nasty and probably hateful towards Leah, God has mercy on her and he opens up her womb and he makes Rachel barren. Now, it's very clear that fertility and basically being fertile, it's very clear that they believe that being fertile is a gift from God. So Rachel clearly knows that she's done something. She has to know that she's done something to cause God to make her barren. But she doesn't do anything to rectify it. At no point do we really read that Rachel becomes kind to Leah or that they seem to build a friendship. No, it reads throughout the entire time that there's animosity there, there's discord, and that the house is not a house of peace. Especially when Leah talks about being afflicted or being miserable. It's very clear that there is no peace there, and that relationship never really resolves or improves. So it is very unfortunate situation in that respect. Leah goes on to have 3 sons, and Rachel, she's barren. She doesn't have any children. Clearly, for that time to not have children is a big deal, and it's almost considered there. I mean, it is. Women feel ashamed, and she does actually say that at one point, and I have to. There is a part where she actually does say that she feels ashamed. So, here in Genesis 30, Leah says, and I'm umming away, y'all, so I'm sorry. Here in Genesis 30:23, Leah says, God has taken away my reproach. And so reproach means a condition of shame or disgrace. So it's very clear that when, and I'm waving pins around and everything else, y'all just bear with me today, my brain. It's very clear that Rachel knows, because she's not having kids, that she's done something wrong to not have God bless her with children. But she also recognizes that because she doesn't have children, she is looked down upon. So Rachel she's frustrated and she's embarrassed, and she's like, look, I want to have kids. She kind of takes it out on Jacob, but not so much. But she kind of does. She's like, I want to have kids. We need to do something about this. And Jacob just, oh gosh, he irks me. But Jacob takes it out on God and is like, why are you doing this to us? And I'm like, it seems like both of them, Jacob and Rachel, both seem to just think they're blameless in her barrenness. They just seem to have no concept of their actions. They seem to have no accountability. They seem to not recognize that you can't treat people like that and expect for good things to come to you, right? Because again, you reap what you sow. So how you treat people, it affects how you are treated. So both of them just seem to be blindly unaware, and that frustrates me to no avail. And that might just be because of my job where I deal with employees who seem to be blindly unaware, but we're not going there today. So anyways, so Rachel, she's frustrated. She's demanding children. She clearly knows she can't do it herself. So she's like, well, I guess I'll give my servant. And her servant name is, because I always forget to mention them, Bilal. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And Bilal has 2 sons. Rachel has 2 sons, because in that time, Bilal's sons would be considered Rachel kids. So she has these 2 kids, and she clearly is happier than she was before, but she's still not happy. She still really wants to have kids of her own through her own body and her own womb. And that's clear because she bargains for the mandrakes. She bargains for the mandrakes that Reuben picked. So clearly she wants to do it herself. She wants to have those children herself. Otherwise, why would she be trying to get her hands on that love apple, right? So Rachel finally has a child of her own, and she names that child Joseph. And it's the same. So she could, okay, so this is Genesis. I'm like, so Genesis 23, I'm sorry. It's Genesis 30. Verse 23 and 24. She conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. Now remember, I said before, reproach means condition of shame. I would say I had 2 major takeaways that I took away from Rachel. One is, sometimes even if you don't know God, there are certain things that happen in your life that will make you recognize who God is. So I appreciated that she did eventually recognize that her being able to bear a child was a gift from God, and that she did thank him, and give him the glory that he deserves for that gift. The second thing that I took away, which wasn't necessarily like something I would want to do, but is that it doesn't pay to be hateful. It's not in our best interest as people to be hateful or resentful or mean-spirited to other people. You know, there's always going to be stuff that happens and people that come into our lives and do things that we're not happy about or say things that we're not happy about, but it's not in our best interest, whether we recognize it or not, to retribute or retaliate, you know, against those people by being nasty, being mean, being hateful, or, you know, seeking vengeance or whatever, you know. So for me, how I took it was, because of the way that Rachel chose to treat her sister Leah, that was the cause of her barrenness. That's what I took from it. It's like she was reaping what she sowed. You know, you're making your sister miserable and treating her unkindly, and you have to reap what you sow for the actions that you take. So those are my 2 lessons that I took away from Rachel. I would love to hear from you guys about what lessons you took away from the story of Rachel. I hope you guys enjoy this blemished but beautiful Bible study series on women in the Bible. Please make sure you check out Cassandra's channel. Her next video will be on Ruth, which you definitely don't want to miss. So if you have not already, please make sure to subscribe to my channel as well as subscribe to hers. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, be blessed and stay safe. Bye!